Okay, here's the L295 JLO Rockwell engine from the 1971 Ski Whiz 300S. You can see I've already got the starter recoil off and been fixing that, but I'm going to have here's the drive clutch, primary clutch. So I want to take off the exhaust, see if I can have a look inside the engine, inside the cylinder, to see what it looks like. So I'm going to take this muffler off and then take the exhaust manifold off. First thing I'm going to do is buzz these threads a bit with a brass wheel, just to get some of the crud off them. And yeah, and I'll try and be very careful with these bolts, try and tighten them and loosen them very slowly to see if I can do it without breaking things. So to get this exhaust off, looks like we have to take off these two bolts here, this one here, and kind of hard to see this one down in here. There's this plate here that goes on behind the clutch that is used to bolt the exhaust to the engine. So got this bolt out here without trouble, this clamp, but the end of the exhaust pipe here is pretty badly chewed up. Both of these bolts here, the plate holding the exhaust on, have washers. This lower one down here also has a square part and a corresponding square part on the bolt. Yeah, I'll be able to get this exhaust off now that I've done the bolts from the bracket. And you can see the end of the exhaust. Piston wall is scored, but not terribly, I don't think. Take this top tin off. These are 1/2 inch. These two have washers. This one doesn't have a washer, I don't think. I guess it does, just a smaller washer, this side place where there's this crack here. So notice that this head bolt that came out when I was trying to just take this tin off, it's actually got 2 washers. If you look at the other, there's 6 altogether, the head bolts. Not clear to me, but they may each have, here's the one that came out already, they may each have 2 washers underneath them. So I think I'll just try and take these out. I'm going to put some penetrating oil on them, let it sit for a little while. When taking the carburetor off, you can just barely get a 1/2 inch wrench on the nut, like squeezing it up right against. You don't get very good purchase, but it's enough to get it off. So these carburetor adapters, this weird square thing with the hole down to the bottom here, is the thing that is up against the cylinder wall. These 4 bolts down here, to get at them you have to take off the carburetor and its tin on this side and the exhaust and its tin on the other side. And the only way you can get a wrench is by going on an angle and sneaking up on them like that. Because if you try and stick the wrench in just straight like that, it won't fit. If you put it on an angle, it'll fit. And pretty much everything has been 1/2 inch to this point, or a lot of stuff is. But this is actually 17 millimeter, which is kind of strange. I tried 5/8 and 11/16, they don't work. Alright, sorry about the noise. So I'm going to take this piston off. You can see hopefully down in there the little C-clip. Here's my C-clip removal tool. I just take off the piston so I can clean it up a bit. I cleaned up some of the carbon on the top of the cylinder, and you can see on the exhaust side, I don't know if you can see it, oh there it is, there's an A right there. So that's, I presume I'll clean this off and have a better look, but that A goes to the exhaust side of the engine. Yeah, removing that piston pin was actually not that easy because it was really pressed in there. So I ended up taking off the snap ring on this side and this side and used a little piece of wood to push it out, and that got it out. It's interesting though, to get the snap ring on the far side there, on the point side of the engine, I could use this kind of extension on this little tool here, so I could reach in and get the snap ring and close it up and pull it out. So for these washers on the crank here, on the rod, they have a little lip on the inside. So I wanted to get that nut off of this stud here for the head. So I heated it up with a torch and held it with vice grips. Heated up with a torch and it came off like butter. So I want to get the head off so I can get a better look at the cylinder, and also put it on the right way. Right now it's on backwards. So I'll put it back on the engine and put the whole thing back on the engine, tighten it down a little, snug, and take the head off. So I cleaned off the top of the piston with some brake cleaner and a chopstick and a brass brush, and you can see that A, so something like IB15 plus C20 or something. It's hard to tell. And then there's like a Y, which I assume is a little arrow they talk about when they say point the arrow toward the exhaust port. So each of these head bolts has 2 washers underneath the nut. They look to be pretty much identical. And below the 2 washers on these head bolts is a little bushing type thing that will come up. So some of the head bolts had 2 washers, 2 of them had 1 washer. This one here had 2 different sizes of washer. One was obviously the wrong size because it just barely fit on the stud. So quite a hodgepodge. I think that presumably is the way it's supposed to be, with 2 of those equal size washers that fit over the stud easily. So there you have it. And the head came off with no struggle. So there's the head gasket. Doesn't seem to have any obvious problems. Bit of a mark right down there, actually. Nope. So it was, the way it was put in, it had these rings, concentric rings, were up. The concentric rings on the head gasket is just because the bottom of the head here has concentric rings which pressed into the gasket.